I never expected my mother's will reading to become a performance, but that's exactly what it felt like, a rehearsed act, carefully orchestrated by my brother and the lawyer who once promised to protect her wishes. It started the moment I walked into the law office. The chairs were already arranged, coffee already poured, and my brother Ryan sat at the head of the table, like he was hosting a business meeting. He smiled when he saw me, not kindly, but smugly. "Glad you could make it," he said. I nodded and sat down. The lawyer, Mr. Ellison, began immediately. "This won't take long," he said, avoiding eye contact. He shuffled papers, cleared his throat, and began reading the document that, apparently, held my mother's final words. But as soon as he started, I felt that something was wrong. My estate, including all monetary assets, personal property, and real estate, will be transferred to my son, Ryan. I blinked. I thought I misheard. As a gesture of gratitude for his unwavering support during my final months, I felt my stomach turn. Unwavering support. He hadn't seen her in over a year. I was the one who moved into her guest room. I was the one who took her to every doctor's appointment, managed her medications, sat by her bed while she cried through the pain. Ryan never even returned her calls. I raised my hand. "That can't be right." The lawyer looked up briefly, 10 bike down. This was the final version, signed and notarized. I felt the room spinning. This wasn't just unfair. This was impossible. "There must be a mistake," I said, my voice shaking. "There's no mistake," Ryan interrupted. "Mom and I had some great conversations near the end. She just didn't tell you." He was lying. He knew Italiano, but I had no proof. Until that moment, I stayed silent, but something inside me cracked open. I couldn't let this stand. Not after everything I had sacrificed. That night, I went home and opened my mother's old desk, the one she told me never to throw out. Taped to the underside of the top drawer was a small envelope. My name was on it. Inside was a letter. Her handwriting. Her voice, frozen in ink. "If anything ever happens to me and Ryan gets greedy, show them this." It wasn't a will. But it was something, and it changed everything. I held the letter all night. I must have read it 20 times, memorizing every curve of her handwriting, every intentional pause. My mother knew Ryan. She knew what he was capable of, and somehow, she knew he might try to twist her words after she was gone. The next morning, I called the lawyer's office. "I'd like to schedule a follow-up," I said. There was a long pause. "Regarding what, exactly?" "The validity of the will," I replied. "I have a letter from my mother that might change everything." Another pause. Then, "Come in tomorrow at 9. I barely slept. I pulled out photo albums, emails, anything that could support my truth. I even printed screenshots of text messages between Mom and me. Her saying how grateful she was for everything I'd done, how worried she was about Ryan not showing up, how she wanted to put things right. At 9 a.m. sharp, I walked into the office with a folder in my hands. Ryan was already there. He raised an eyebrow. "This again." The lawyer sat down across from us. "Let's keep this brief." I slid the letter across the table. "She wrote this," I said. "She hid it in the desk drawer she told me never to throw away. It's in her handwriting." Mr. Ellison took the letter, read it slowly. His eyes widened. "Didn't know this existed," he said. "This wasn't submitted with her will." "I know," I said, "because she didn't trust you to do it." Ryan laughed. "Seriously? A note in a drawer? You think that's going to undo a notarized will?" I looked him dead in the eyes. "I think it's going to prove that Mom knew exactly who you were." Ellison cleared his throat. "I'll need to verify the handwriting and the circumstances. But if this was written after the will, and if it contradicts her previous intentions, we may have to pause the distribution of assets." Ryan's face dropped. "You can't do that," he snapped. "I can," the lawyer said, "and I will." As the meeting ended, Ryan leaned toward me. "You're really going to fight over this?" I stared at him. "I'm not fighting over money. I'm defending Mom's voice." I walked out without looking back, but the fight was just beginning. The lawyer launched an internal review. My letter triggered a mandatory pause in the asset transfer, and suddenly, people started talking. Mom's nurse, her old friend at church, even her hairdresser. They all came forward saying Mom had expressed doubts about Ryan, and fears he'd manipulate things after she was gone. Every story aligned with mine. I wasn't alone anymore. The news spread quickly in our small town, not because of scandal, but because everyone thought they knew us. The perfect family, the generous son, the dutiful daughter. But now, with Mom gone, the truth was surfacing in quiet conversations and subtle glances. Ryan tried to control the narrative. He posted online about dishonoring our mother's wishes, claiming I was twisting things because I was jealous or bitter. He even shared a photo of him and Mom from 3 years ago, trying to paint a picture of closeness that hadn't existed in years. But the people who really knew Mom weren't fooled. One of our oldest friends, Mrs. Henley, stopped me outside the grocery store. "Your mother told me everything," she said quietly. She was scared of how Ryan would handle things. She trusted you to protect her legacy. I nodded, tears building behind my eyes. That afternoon, Mr. Ellison called. "We've verified the handwriting," he said. "The letter is authentic. It was dated just 2 weeks before her passing, which makes it more recent than the will." Pause. This changes everything. A court date was set to determine whether the letter would override or supplement the original will. Ryan, of course, was furious. He sent me a message. "You're destroying everything for a piece of paper." I didn't reply. This wasn't about a letter. This was about the years I gave up to care for our mother while he vanished. The courtroom was quiet when we arrived. Small, intimate. Just a judge, 2 lawyers, and a handful of people from both sides. I brought not just the letter, but Mom's medical records, the signed affidavit from her nurse, and a video I had forgotten existed, taken just 10 days before her death. In the video, Mom sat in bed, frail but alert. "If anything happens to me," she said, looking directly into the camera, "please listen to my daughter. She knows what I want." That moment, it silenced everything, even Ryan. His lawyer looked shaken. Mine just nodded. The judge reviewed the materials quietly, then said, "I'll render a decision next week. But I'll say this. Now this is the most compelling personal testimony I've seen in years." Ryan stormed out. I stayed seated, my hands still trembling. For once, I wasn't afraid. I knew I had done the right thing. I wasn't fighting for assets or approval. I was fighting for truth, for the version of my mother that Ryan had tried to erase. That night, I placed the video on a flash drive and put it in a small wooden box, along with the letter and a photo of Mom and me. I labeled it, Her Voice, because no matter what happened in court, I had already won something far more powerful. I had protected her truth. 1 week later, I walked back into the courtroom, holding my breath the entire time. Ryan was already there, arms crossed, tapping his foot. His expression wasn't nervous, it was angry. But not because he thought he was right. He was angry because, for once, he wasn't in control. The judge entered. The room settled. He cleared his throat and looked down at his notes for a moment that felt like a year. "I've reviewed the materials provided," he began, "including the contested will, the handwritten letter, supporting testimony, and video evidence." He looked up, and while the letter itself is not a formal will, it holds considerable weight. Combined with the video testimony from the decedent and the affidavits provided, I have reason to believe that the executed will does not reflect her most current and true intentions. Ryan shifted in his seat. His lawyer lowered his gaze. The judge continued. "It is the court's decision to pause the execution of the current will and instead proceed with a revised division of assets, one that honors the documented wishes of the decedent, as evidenced in the material presented by the daughter." My heart skipped. I didn't win everything, but I didn't need to. The assets would now be split, but more importantly, my mother's voice had been restored. After court, Ryan didn't say a word to me, not even a glance. He walked right past me, down the steps and into the street, vanishing into the noise. But I stayed there for a while, breathing. Free? A few days later, I got a letter from the lawyer. Inside was a revised inventory of what I'd inherited, a portion of the house, a sum of savings, and one surprising addition. Mom's journal. It had been tucked away, not listed in the original will. But now, because of the ruling, it was returned to me. I held it like it was made of glass. On the first page, in faded ink, was a message written years ago. If you're reading this, it means you fought for me. And I love you for that. I cried for an hour. I didn't care about the money, the furniture, the house. This was the real inheritance. A few weeks later, I started a foundation in her name for elder care, patient advocacy, and legal aid for caregivers. The first donation came from a woman I'd never met who wrote, "Your story helped me speak up for my father. Thank you." And that's when I knew, even in death, my mother was still changing lives. And so was he.